You're listening to Gateway to E-Commerce, a podcast by ClearSale. In this series, global e-commerce leaders discuss challenges, best practices, new tech, and secrets to success. And now your host, Denise.
Welcome back to a new season 2 of Gateway to E-Commerce podcast. You may recognize my voice from last season. This is Denise Purtzer. And I wanted to bring in a couple of my team members to expand the knowledge base and expand the conversation topics. And so today we're going to be talking about why partnerships are integral to building online business. So it makes complete sense to bring in the best of the best on the partnerships team here at ClearSale. We've got Monica Perez and we've got Faye McEachern. Now, Faye, you and I have worked together in the past in other roles, but now more recently you came on board to be the director of partnerships here. Why don't you tell a little bit about what you do day to day?
Yeah, so we are coming up on a year, which I'm really excited about. I manage the relationships with our partners to kind of ensure the success of the partnership. So from marketing to sales enablement, all of the things in between.
Great. And you've got some experience in the e-commerce segment for sure. Tell a little bit about your background.
I worked in payments for a really long time, and that's where we first met. So
absolutely.
Yeah, payments and content and all kinds of things e-commerce related.
Some more years than we want to count, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Great. And Monica, you've joined us more recently, but you bring a lot of experience to the table as well. You worked, on the platform side and e-commerce, and then you worked also in the fraud space with another brand, but came to us working more on the agency side. So tell us a little bit about what you're doing here at ClearSale and a little bit about your background.
Absolutely. Thank you for the intro, Denise. So I am focused on working hand in hand with our digital agency partners and consultants, essentially to help merchants and these brands solve complex problems in order to succeed in today's very challenging e-commerce environment. So in my day-to-day, I strive to be proactive, responsive, and really a strategic resource and advocate for our partners here.
So last season, we talked about a lot of different topics. Some of the things that were most listened to, and thank you, by the way, for listening to us in season 1. But we talked about luxury goods. We talked about traveling around the world and what you need to do in e-commerce in Mexico or specific to Australia. And then we also shared one of the other events that was well listened to was the Halloween spooky stories. We talked about how fraud can be its most spooky. So talking about all different points in e-commerce, moving to season 2, one of the things that we're going to do is bring in a lot of our partners, and there will be a theme of partners and partnerships throughout this season. Very excited to be bringing in some of our clients, and we'll talk a little bit more about those as we go along today. But I would like to just kind of share some information today about our partnership program and the wealth of knowledge that we have on this team. I'm so lucky to have a team in Monica and Faye that bring so much experience to the table. And let's dig into it. I think, Faye, I wanted to ask a question to you first and foremost, and just if you could just lay out, how partnerships are key to ClearSale and how our team embraces partnerships to help merchants solve all the different aspects of e-commerce.
So how much time do I have?
Go for it.
So I could talk about a ton of things around this and how partnerships are key to our success, but I'll keep it simple. Essentially, they are an extension of our team and we're an extension of their team. And from our perspective, the ClearSale product and that partnership helps them be successful by protecting their clients and ultimately creating more trust and revenue for the partner. And for us as well, and for the merchants too. We have to build the relationship with the partner, and I think that's the most important part for me anyway, in my perspective, is being able to, there's the prescribed part where you have to learn what they do, obviously, and learn about their business, and they have to learn about yours, but taking that time to learn about their lives, where they live, their family, their likes, their hobbies, that sort of thing. And building that kind of candid relationship ensures that loyalty and creates a long-lasting, meaningful partnership. And so that's kind of the key for me, is that relationship, that trust allows us to really be successful.
So interestingly, you mentioned trust here, and that's something that comes up quite often when I hear Monica talking to partners as well. Monica, if you could share, how do you leverage trust in relationships to get things done more quickly?
Absolutely. So with my partner agencies, as an example, we as ClearSale, we go beyond just being their fraud protection vendor, essentially. We're also, for us, the agency is also acting as a strategic resource for us and helping us build trust with our own clients. That way it goes beyond just a very one-sided relationship. And they allow us that opportunity to build this trust by us providing that guidance and guiding merchants in the right direction. And sometimes that means that we have to involve an agency. For instance, if we have a merchant using ClearSale who needs to replatform, that's a great opportunity to bring in an agency partner that is in our network and we've vetted and can assist them with that replatform project. So there's different opportunities where agencies and our partners can bring value to our merchants as well.
Absolutely. You mentioned agencies and you mentioned like replatforming projects. They do a myriad of different things, right? So what are some of the other things that agencies do to help their merchant clients?
Absolutely. I mean, it can be anywhere from, especially agencies that are offering full suite services. They can help with digital marketing. Obviously, if there are merchants that have a lot of complex systems like ERPs that they need to make sure are all working together, an agency can definitely come in and assist them with those more complex projects. But there has been a shift in the space, I feel, and this is a lot to do with the rapid growth in e-commerce, obviously also innovation, which has increased the complexity of consumer demands, and of course, the competition now in the landscape, even with marketplaces. So it's very important for these merchants to partner with best-in-class commerce enablers who will provide, as you mentioned, Denise, a myriad of services, including tailored, e-commerce platforms that make sense and are best suited for the merchant's needs, intuitive user experiences, engaging, informative content. So they fill in so many gaps, right? So a lot of merchants are working with in-house teams, but bringing an agency on board can help them fill in gaps that maybe their in-house team currently can fill.
That's great. So when do merchants bring on an agency? Do they have to be a pretty large merchant, or is it somebody that's, a small business? Are they able to bring on agencies as well?
It really depends on the merchant's goal and their, that time to value. So how quickly they want to see that value and ROI. So it all depends. I say that more startups are being receptive to bringing in an agency partner early on because, as I mentioned, we talked about all the complexities that go into building an e-com site, especially during these challenging times. But it really depends. Some agencies, some merchants wait till they really need to fill in the gaps because their in-house team may focus on a specialty, for instance, digital marketing, and then they will outsource the rest to an agency to really help them out with other key points of the business.
Great. And Monica was talking about, all the changes that have happened in this last year. Those are obviously undeniable. Faye, you and I have done a ton of trade shows together, and we haven't been able to go to any in the last year together. Monica and I did one in October, snuck one in for the jewelry market and the jewelry industry, just because jewelers are having such a challenging time right now, trying to go from that brick and mortar only mode to expanding into e-commerce. So we did some education there. But Faye, speak, if you would, a little bit about the impact that these times have had with the pandemic on partnerships and trying to grow partners. Do you feel like it's been hindering not going to shows, or what are your thoughts there?
Well, I think at first, that's a great question, because at first I was nervous, like I'm sure most of us were, about not being able to travel, because I think that going to trade shows and meeting people in person is an integral part to partnerships. So much more so, like I miss shaking hands so much.
And the hug.
I know. I'll try and shake my daughter's hand. Like, can we just shake hands for a minute? It's weird. I miss it. I didn't think I would. But so at first I was nervous that we couldn't go to shows. And so we can't meet people. And how are we going to do this? And I think across the board, partnerships on a whole, people are all maybe feeling that sort of thing. And so now we're all scrambling to be more connected and organize these meetups and see 40 people face to face and just talk about whatever. And I think people now are more eager to get in touch. So I think that there has been an influx, but that could just be my perception.
No, I agree. And I think back to October, Monica, when you and I went on the road, and I felt a little awkward when we first started the show, because it's like, what are the rules of engagement? We're not supposed to shake hands. What are we supposed to do? What are some of the things that you saw at that show that you felt were different? I mean, it was just kind of a strange time, wasn't it?
Absolutely. I think to Faye's point, the handshaking, it's intuition. You immediately want to extend your arm. So having to just hold back that need that is just, it's intuitive, was a bit rough at the beginning, but you get used to it. A little, some elbow taps, and
the new handshake, the elbow
the new
tap,
handshake,
yes.
exactly. And it was very new having a masked police walking around, basically making
Yes.
sure everybody had their masks on right. So which is good in hindsight. That obviously has helped keep everybody safe. So, but to my surprise, I think it went fairly well. It definitely gave me hope that we can make conferences happen just as things start getting a little bit better. It's doable.
I totally agree. And Faye, to your point too, it's been interesting seeing people interact more readily, because you're not saying, oh, I'll just meet you at the next show, and it gets kind of put off over time. So it's been kind of nice to have things in a little bit more urgent mode, because everybody's trying to figure it all out. Have you noticed anything else, Faye, that's been going on in the partnerships circuit that has evolved since the pandemic? Any other ways of communicating, or any tools that you've used?
I have to say, sorry, I have to cough. Another thing that I've noticed is an increase in Slack, let's say, different means of communication. That's just kind of one example, but it's so much more personal, I find now, for whatever reason. Maybe it's because we're all at home in comfy clothes, but that ability to get in touch with somebody is so much easier because there's different methods, like reaching out through Slack and just having those conversations very easily.
I agree. I think it's that more personalization. It's kind of like giving somebody your cell phone number so they can text you. Is different than an email. It's 1 degree closer to somebody, right? And Slack kind of bridges that gap a little bit.
Absolutely. And I'm texting with my partners too.
Well, that's been interesting too, is not everybody had everybody's cell phone number in the past. Think about it now, when we do go to trade shows, we're all going to be able to reach out and meet up very easily. That'll be interesting. Totally agree. Monica, any tools that you're using differently?
In terms of tools, I think no specific tools, but I would say something that's changed is that now I definitely turn on my camera on every call, and I look forward to my conversations and catch-ups with my partners, just so I can have that interaction that I feel like I'm missing these days since I'm very quarantined. So just having us turn on our cameras, which, to be honest, was not something that a lot of partners, and myself included, we used to do prior to the C word, COVID. It's a breath of fresh air, and it definitely helps, us that are stuck at home, working from home, kind of get that engagement going.
Well, despite the crazy year that we've had, I think that it has been a year that's definitely evolved as far as our partnerships team has grown. We've definitely learned a lot in the last year. Faye, if you wouldn't mind sharing with now that you've been here for over a year now, I think that the 2-year mark for a partnerships team, which is where we're at, is pretty important benchmark. What do you think that you've learned over the past year, or some of the changes that we've made in the past year that have made a difference to the partnerships program?
Oh, geez. Well, we've changed so much since I started. And on the personal side of things, what I've learned is kind of being more creative in understanding how partnerships fit. Because I mentioned that it came from payments mostly. So those types of partnerships that we had in the beginning when I first started, I mean, I wasn't in the fraud space, but fraud makes sense and payments and all that stuff. So for me on the personal side, learning was how to put the pieces together of partnerships and how we could work together and how we could make our joint customers more successful. And learning in what they do and how we can complement each other. So that was a learning curve for me over the last year.
Monica, you came from a different partnerships program. What do you think that we're doing differently here? And I know you've contributed some ideas as well, and we've implemented some of those things, but what are some of the things that you feel that are necessary to be a successful partnership program?
Definitely education. And I think, to your point, something differently that we're doing here at ClearSale is investing in different means of communication, such as podcasts, gateway to e-commerce, for instance, what we're doing right now. I think it's amazing that our partners can listen in as well as merchants, and we can via our podcast reach so many different audiences. And at the same time, how I see partnerships is we are just a piece of the complete puzzle, and we are that fraud prevention piece, and our partners kind of help to be the other pieces and complete the puzzle. So we need to learn just as much about their services, and us providing all this information, we're helping them as well be that strategic resource for their own clients. So I think our means of communication and education is the main difference.
Great. And I agree. I think that education is so important, and having that information for the merchants is, I mean, at the end of the day, we need the merchants to succeed, right? And we can't do everything, although fraud touches so many aspects of the e-commerce chain. That's why it's been fun to bring in different types of partners. And, originally we were working with payments partners and, some agencies, and those make complete sense. But we've also had some technology partners come on board, like Split It, who does alternative payments, but they do it in a slightly different way, or, even some others. Faye, can you think of any technology ideas that have come to the table that has gotten you excited about sharing that with the team so that the merchants can have access to that as well?
Yes, like we're actually one of the partners that we brought on recently provides a chat experience with a personal shopper, let's say, allowing merchants to have this more personal human experience. And so that's really exciting to see, because a lot of these luxury merchants that are moving to online, they can't do this in person anymore. And so giving them an option to have something like that is really exciting and really huge, and gives that human touch that they're lacking now that they're online.
Yeah, you mentioned the luxury market. And I think another piece that's interesting with that is the fact that it ties the e-commerce in, right? So that they can put a customer right into the cart, and that purchase can be made. So at the end of the day, everybody wins, right? It makes it easy to check out. And I think a lot of these things are coming into play because of the fact that the brick and mortar and the online experience is becoming just the lines are being blurred. It's becoming more one these days. And we're seeing that with the e-commerce platforms creating not only tools through partners, but even building things into their functionality as well with BOPUS opportunities and stuff like that, right?
Absolutely. We're doing everything that we can right now to give that human feel.
Everybody wants to have that for sure on the customer side. Monica, share with me, if you would, some agencies you worked with to work through some challenges that the merchants are having and solving those problems.
For instance, I mentioned replatform. Sometimes even when they are within a platform, they need to upgrade to the latest version, just so all the systems are up to date. And that's where the agency can definitely assist. Sometimes also on the digital marketing side, one of the most difficult aspects of an e-commerce site is driving traffic. And that's something that a lot of agencies can help with. And so those are a few examples.
No, I think that's great. And there's just so many changes going on. It's hard to do everything with your current team, right? Especially as they may be spread apart and working from home. It's nice to bring in the experts to do those sorts of things. Well, we've touched on so many interesting topics today. I think that the theme of trust has come through in building out those partnerships. I think we've discussed some points that it's taking time to build out partnerships, and you've got to feed and nurture them. And it doesn't happen overnight, but there are some pivotal things that can happen to make that a turning point and make a successful partnership program. And I think overall the theme has been that we don't expect anybody to be able to do this huge task of e-commerce alone, that it takes a village. And it's fun to have a village of trusted partners that we can pull from. And when we bring them all together, beautiful things happen. Wouldn't you agree?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Great. So to end up today, I have something in store for you both. That's a bit of a surprise, but I'm just going to ask you some quick questions and do this in a rapid fire drill. We'll start with Monica, and then we'll go to Faye each time. But this will help everybody to get to know you all a little bit more as we go through this season. Nothing will be too surprising. But first of all, your desk preference. Do you prefer to stand up or sit down?
Sit down, 100%.
I prefer to sit. Yeah.
Vacation, when we get to take them again, beach or mountains?
Mountains.
Beach.
Which is funny, Miami. Monica, considering you live on a beach, right? Yeah. Starting with you, Monica, what's your favorite animal?
Birds. Love birds.
Do all of them count? My dog.
Speaking of which, that goes to the next question. Do you have a pet, and tell us about them?
Oh, yes. I can tell you about him. Like for 3 hours, I can talk about Bodhi. I have a puppy named Bodhi, and he is 4.5 months. And I love him so much. He's at daycare right now because he would be barking in the background. So I'll pick him up in a little bit. So I'm right now a puppy mom. So, which I've heard is, what was that, Faye? Harder or easier than having
more difficult than having an infant?
Right. So I've been told.
Okay, and so for me, I have a 13-year-old Labradoodle, defective Labradoodle because he sheds, whose name is Lloyd, named after Lloyd Christmas from Dumb and Dumber. He's my main squeeze.
And having met both of your puppies and being a Scotty mom of 2, love them both dearly. Okay, I already know the answers here, but spicy food or not?
Not for me.
Definitely. I want to suffer.
No.
Where were you born?
I was born in Cuba. So I moved to the States when I was 6 years old. Yep.
Germany. Moved to Canada when I was, I don't even know, 3.
See, I'm the boring one here, having been born in Lincoln, Nebraska. Still living there. The last thing you cooked or baked? And you don't have to tell if it was a success or not.
Oh my goodness. Oh, what was the last thing I cooked? I don't cook. That's the answer.
Fair enough.
I made myself a hot dog for breakfast.
Was not expecting that. And we'll end up on a little bit more serious note. What's your biggest pet peeve for online shopping?
Oh, when I can't put the discount code unless I create an account. Oh, I hate that because I want to know if it works.
I do too.
This is kind of my ClearSale plug. Is I apparently have very fraudy shopping behaviors. So my pet peeve is when I get declined because they don't like my behavior. So like I put I shop when I go to this, like when I come to the States, when I'm at a show, that's when I want to shop at a Canadian store and then my card gets declined. And that's my biggest pet peeve is getting
kind
declined.
Of a merchant's nightmare, Faye.
I am most people's nightmare.
Well, ladies, thank you for your expertise and your time here today. I'm looking forward to having more episodes with you all this season for season 2, as well as pulling in some of our partners. So join us for the upcoming season 2. We're going to have lots to share, and we look forward to being with you all throughout this next season. Thank you.
For more e-commerce insights, visit us on our website at clear.sale.